Alright, so I've got the screws all sorted out. We'll be using a lot of these for the motherboard. Well, 9 of them at least. And when I do come across these stands, I do like to put the screws in them that fit, because what happens is you'll get a lot of different stands with a lot of different screws, and you'll never know which ones really fit into what without trying them. So when I do get spares like this, I like to do that up front, a little maintenance going on. Notice there's a few different kinds of screws. These will go on the back expansion ports, which there's already a pile of screws in, which is nice. These will be used for the motherboard, and typically they're also used for hard drives, CD drives, and so on. But in this case, the case comes with these slots, which lets you do fast hot swaps. Rails, I guess you might call them. And these black screws, I don't know quite what those are for. Those are probably special to this case. These are a little big to be used for anything in particular, so we'll keep those aside. And what I'm going to do now, apart from hoping that I do not kick those screws anywhere, is we're going to lay the case on its side and hopefully not on anything. There we go, so it's nice and flat. And let me set the camera up, and we're going for the brain surgery. Thank goodness for wide-angle lenses. So with the case on its side, make sure you got plenty of light, and also make sure that any case wires, you've moved them off to the side so the area is free and clear of any hindrances, obstacles, and so on and so forth. You want to make this nice and easy on yourself, and having anything in the way that's going to cause you a hassle is not a good thing. Do a last check of all the brass stands here. Those are good. And we will install the motherboard. Picking it up by the corners is always your best bet. And in this case, I don't particularly like holding the motherboard by the CPU fan, but this is fairly stable. And before I put it down, I want to make sure that the holes in the stands are pretty close. And I want to lay it down nice and very, very gentle. So it's a little cockeyed. Let's kick that around, lift it up, then turn, then put it back down. Do not go dragging the motherboard along. Yeah, I had a nice little fit there, huh? You do not want to scrape the motherboard across that metal. There's a lot of tiny fine circuits on the backside, and you'll really be hating yourself when you kill the motherboard like that. So I mentioned I was going to pull out a bunch of little paper washers. I guess they're kind of insulators, they're kind of washers, but basically they just look nice. And I figure computer cases wouldn't come with them if they weren't of some use, and if anyone can explain that, certainly please feel free to do so in the comments. So this is like wrangling cats. Let me get back to you in a minute. Alright, so I put all the washers in place first, and I was thinking the tweezers would be handy, but unless you've got a rubber or plastic tweezers, you definitely don't want to put fine metal like that near the motherboard. And in fact, well, here's another thing, having a magnetized screw head is good. And even having a screwdriver near the motherboard can be risky. Never apply more force than you need to, because the screwdriver will fly and kick into the motherboard somewhere. Could possibly destroy a very minor piece of looking metal that is utterly critical to the functioning of the motherboard. And I am not interested in demonstrating what that looks and sounds like, because it's a really wretched, horrible sound that will haunt you. Now, I'm not putting these in tight at all. What I'm doing is just getting them into place so that they're holding the motherboard in, but they're not securing it strongly quite yet. And the reason for that is if you go tightening down one screw at a time, you will quickly find, very quickly find, that you need to loosen that screw up because another one doesn't want to go down quite properly. Because you put so much pressure on one point, there's no room for the motherboard to slip a little into its final resting place. Two more to go. And here we are. So 9 screws for this one. Some micro ATX, like I mentioned, will use 10. Usually that 10th one goes right around here or so. There we are. Right around here or so, but they're using a little something or other on the motherboard. So at this point, I'm going to tighten all the screws to a little better than finger tight, obviously, because I am using a screwdriver. But the tightness I'm talking about, I am holding the screwdriver basically, if I can get the angle here, with 2 fingers. That is tight enough. Going opposite corners isn't a bad idea at all. And basically when you're putting this in, there's really no reason to put this down really tight. You can see how little pressure I'm using, I hope. If you feel really uncomfortable about the amount of pressure used, you can always check back in a few weeks or a month and get everything a little tightening up. So just to make sure I've got them all, I'll give each one a second go. And again, you don't want to use too much pressure because the screw head will fly out of control, probably dig into the motherboard, possibly destroy a little line channel of information, and it's all over from there. And that is it. We now have one installed motherboard.